All right, fellas, we're going to end it off with college football, probably the last segment of the year. And we, of course, are looking at a new national champion, a season unlike any other. That was probably the most unpredictable season in our lifetimes, ended in possibly the most predictable way. The Alabama Crimson Tide defeated the Ohio State Buckeyes 52-24, claiming their third title in the college football playoff era. Quarterback Mac Jones further boosted his draft stock, going for 5 touchdowns. Also, Heisman winner Devontae Smith absolutely wrecked Ohio State, hauling in 12 catches for 215 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's despite only playing about a half. The win caps off a 13-0 season, almost pure domination, where the Tide averaged almost 50 points per game and outscored opponents by 29 on average. The victory is also the 7th title for Nick Saban overall, making him the winningest coach by titles in college football history, surpassing Bear Bryant's 6. So, Drink, back on top once again, right? Give us your thoughts on the game and tell us what made this Alabama team special.
Well, when we was getting ready to close out the show last week, what did I tell you we was going to bring to Miami?
The trophy case.
You're damn right. Let's roll, baby. So here's the deal. We came down there. We had a little delay to the game because you had to roll that big trophy case in. It was just too many. And listen, if we keep the same context that we had with the NFL, my boys came and did exactly what they were supposed to do. But I do want to give credit to Ohio State. Before I talk this trash, let me say this. I think Ohio State played about as good as they could have. And I said this last week. It's going to be very hard for a team that only played 7 games to come play a team that played an all-SEC schedule, then played Notre Dame, and then coming in here. I just thought it was too much to ask for Ohio State. I thought man for man, Ohio State, they made some play. I was impressed with Ohio State defense. Even though we torched the secondary, I think their front 7 was playing about as good as they could. And the reason I know that is because I listened to Najee Harris' interview after the game, and he was like, yo, these dudes were smoking me out there. They weren't messing around. But we're just more seasoned, and they knew how to handle it. But Ohio State, for their credit, I thought they played as good as they could. And you know what, Ron Day, listen, hats off. We'll see next year, if you can get over that hump. But I thought, Ron Day, he got out coached. I think they lost 3 areas in this game, and they needed to win at least one. To me, they ran even. So they ran even with the talent, I think. Talent level was even. But when it came to coaching, and when it came to schematic schemes, whether that's offense or defense, I think Alabama was just a couple of steps ahead. That one touchdown where Devontae Smith is getting covered by a linebacker, that ain't it. That ain't it. Hey, that Coons or whatever the defense, that ain't it. That first and foremost, that was super disrespectful. I don't give a damn how good tough balling is. You ain't putting no middle linebacker on the Heisman Trophy winner. Okay. I digress. Let me not dive too deep into that. Mac Jones, the Joker. I went over the awards last week. I'm not gonna do it this time, but for all these people that say, "Hey, Mac Jones just a product of Alabama's recruiting prowess," why wouldn't Justin Fields be a product of Ohio State recruiting prowess? Or why wouldn't Trevor Lawrence be a product of Clemson's recruiting prowess? I'm just saying, because I find it outrageous for Matt Jones to come out here and play week after week, playing the top competition at the time and dominating it, but then it's one of those things, oh, he's just a product. He's not that good. What the hell you want the man to do? And he had 9 incompletions. Like, what do you want him to do? He threw for 464 yards. The wide receiver can't throw the ball and catch it. Somebody got to throw it to him. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, man, shouts out to Matt Jones. I hope he it seems as if he didn't play his way into the first round. We'll see how that go. But shouts out to him. Najee Harris. Now, if you look at the yards, you might say, man, Najee Harris didn't play that well. Najee Harris did exactly what we needed him to do. Exactly. Especially with that over the top screen that looked like he was about to go out of bounds, and Najee just like gently turned around and caught it and scored a touchdown. Man, you can't teach that stuff, man. That's skill, time, practice, repetition, just athleticism. You can't teach that. So, Najee, 22 carries, 79 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then he also caught 7 passes for 79 yards and a touchdown. Listen, and that's just those two. But I got to get to the Slim Reaper, baby. One, the Heisman Trophy winner, Devontae Silky Smooth Smith. You know what it is. If you don't think he's silky smooth, just go back and look at the first half of that national championship and tell me what you think. So this dude did all his damage in one half of football. Could you imagine listen, let me ask you something. Could you imagine being so good at whatever you do that you only had to put in a half a day work and your productivity is still better than everybody else that put in a 4 days work? Like, that's what that was. That's what that was. In one half, he did more than do you know he had almost more? I think it might have
he had more. He had more than all of Ohio State's total offense.
Yeah, you know what I was about to say.
It was like 203 to 91 and 191 and 2, I think it was. I remember the graphic. He outproduced the entire team.
And then I got to give a shout out to the GOAT, baby. Because he did something that I think was small and minute, but I think will benefit Alabama in the future. Jaden Waddle got in the game. And I mean, once he caught that first pass, I was hoping I didn't see him again. He did come back in later, and he was in and out. But I was just happy to see him catch that one pass and what's most likely going to be his last game as an Alabama Crimson Tide player. So I was happy to see he got on the field. But then what really got me was I seen my boy Landon Dixon get the last snap before they wrap it up. Landon Dixon had surgery on his knee 20 days ago. Well, at that time, it was 20 days before that game. That is incredible.
I didn't see that they put him in the last snap. That's cool.
Yeah, that was incredible. That almost brought a tear to my eye. I had to watch. I watched every bit of it, but it almost brought a tear to my eye because I was like, man, these players was telling Coach Saban this was an important game. That he know who going. Like, he know who leaving. He know this their last game. And for him to allow that, I mean, it was kind of dangerous, but he still did it. And he probably made that guy's life. Like, he made his career by doing that and allowing him to play in his last game, snapping the last snap. That was beautiful, man. That was beautiful. And then another thing, listen, the defense, right? One of the biggest things I was hearing throughout was, hey, Alabama defense, it ain't what it used to be. Y'all can give up points. And that's true. In today's offense, you will give up points. It's no shutdown defense. Not if you playing a competent offense. Now, if you playing Georgia with Stetson Bennett, yeah, you might shut them down. Yeah, that might happen.
No.
You playing Tennessee with Jared Garnataro, yeah, you might shut him down. But when you playing top-notch competition, the Ohio States, the Clemsons, the Bamas, the Oklahomas, the Floridas, when you're playing those top-notch teams that can throw the ball and run the ball and all this stuff, you're not going to completely stop them. That's just the way it is. This is not 2009, like where you can see the play coming from a mile away. This is not that football no more. Did you see how Devontae Smith was just doing this the whole game in the first half? Sark got him doing figure eights and snowmans and doing all types of crap out there, and he's still getting. It's incredible, man. That is today's football, man. And people don't understand that. So when we bash these defenses, we kind of have to look at, even though that's why I said I thought Ohio State played pretty decently outside the secondary. Secondary. You know what I'm saying? Big question mark. Sean Wade might be coming back next year. He might not be coming back. I don't know. We'll see. But the front seven, like I said, and that kid Banks, look, number 7, Banks, I was impressed with that guy. He was out there laying the boom. He played pretty good. I thought he was playing pretty good coverage. They started picking on Wade because Banks was making a name for himself, and then I don't know what happened. I think Ohio State got a little lethargic, and then after that little apathetic attitude, Alabama kind of just killed the wheel. But you what's undersold is you got guys like Mitchell, 8 catches for 81 yards. On a normal team, you're like, man, that's pretty good. Man, ain't nobody even say much about that. Like, people still talking about Mitchell killing the dude from Florida. They ain't said nothing about it, what he been doing since since that game. We still like, hey, that really happened. So
I think that guy's still on the field, by the way.
you know what I'm saying?
See, you need some water.
They did say it was an ongoing investigation, but either way, like I just looked at this and I said, Ohio State, for what it's worth, they gave their best foot forward. And I said this before the game. No one was going to beat Alabama this year. That's just what it is. That's why I had so much confidence in this team. It's just all the intangibles, we seen it on display in this championship game. What do I mean? Waddle didn't have to be out there, but he wanted to be out there. Dixon didn't have to be out there, but he wanted to be out there. And, you know, the cherry on top before I wrap this up, my man Nick was crying because he do truly believe this is the best team he has ever coached because of what they had to go through and how they handled it. They handled it like professionals. There wasn't no tomfoolery. It wasn't no, we got to shut down the facility for coronavirus. It wasn't none of that. I mean, really, Nick was about the biggest threat we had on the team when it came to coronavirus. So with that said, just everything about this team was beautiful, man. I'm happy to see my boys win, put the cherry on the top, but I would be remiss if I don't keep it 100. We might lose 2 or 3 games next year. But, you know, hey, it might be a little shaky next year. But we got it done this year. Team of the ages. And listen, Ohio State, I hope y'all got another running back. Maybe Sermon going to come back because Master Teague, he ain't going to cut it. Oh, but what I did want to say, do not be surprised if Justin Fields forego the draft and come back for his senior season. Do not be surprised. I'm telling you, I got a strange feeling that he was not overly impressed with his own self this season, and he didn't like. I wouldn't be surprised if he came back. Just be on the lookout for that. But all that said, Roll Tide, you know what it is. Because we see what they don't and say what they won't. We brought the trophy back with the case. You know what it is.
I think the word on the street was they actually had to get another case. The first case didn't fit all the stuff in there.
You're right. You're right.
You know what? What more can you say about Alabama than what Drink just said? I mean, this was really wire to wire, and I thought it became pretty clear, as the season wore on, that Alabama was leaps and bounds the best team in the country. You remember last year, there were 3 teams that stood out above the rest. It was LSU, it was Clemson, it was Ohio State. This year, I think there were still 3 teams because, Notre Dame and et cetera, whoever was behind them, they were, lesser than the other 3. But Alabama still looked leaps and bounds ahead of Ohio State and Clemson. And they as you well say, they came and just proved it. And, who knows how, much worse it could have been. I mean, even the funny thing about this game, as you were watching, I think Baron Browning, makes a really tremendous play for Ohio State late in the first, I believe it was.
Hey, that was Kurt Hurd-Street. He jinxed us, man.
Yeah, but he comes in, Mac Jones just, I don't know what he did in that. And he looked like he tried to make a behind the back move or something. And he just, he fumbles the ball. And then, Ohio State takes advantage. It's a tie game. And still, at that point, you're like, this is going to be really easy. Because that was the first moment that Ohio State did something to stop them. And it's just, it was just one play where they just caught him. They got a free rusher and they made a big play. But after that, Alabama just went right back to just,
hold on. Well, technically what happened was they was about to run a bootleg and the guy that's why Mac Jones ran right into the
blocker. Yeah, he beat the blocker coming back across
because he was trying to run a naked bootleg and he didn't have a blocker clearly.
Yeah. But regardless, Ohio State caught a break. They tie the game, and I still felt if I was an Alabama fan, I wouldn't have felt any concern at all. I was like, oh well, they caught us one bad break. We're going to go right back to marching up and down the field again, and that's what happened. Right. To your point, Najee Harris, they held him about 3.5 yards a clip. That's better than Notre Dame. We were giving Notre Dame, the moral victory. Oh, you didn't let him score a touchdown, 8 yards a carry, but you held him out of the end zone. You really hunkered down in there. Mac Jones, I believe he set the record for passing efficiency in a season at like 203, 41 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. I don't care. I don't care how like good of a supporting cast you have. I mean, you have to be something special to put up those type of numbers. Not Najee Harris, even though it wasn't his best performance on the ground, he still put up 158 all-purpose yards. He scored 3 times, just capping off a great season for him. And of course, Devontae Smith. I'm not going to be mad at Ohio State secondary. Nobody has stopped Devontae Smith the whole year, and
That's
really,
true.
I mean, his whole
That's
career,
true.
he's done, for the most part, what he, has wanted to do. John Mechie, as usual, doing a great job as a second receiver. Jalen Waddle, it's good to see him out there. It didn't look like he was, clearly, I don't think he was 100%. That first pass he caught, it's almost like he's kind of just limping to the sideline almost. I really don't appreciate the kind of the outrage, just like, everybody's coming at Nick Saban like, oh, why'd you put this guy in the game? Think about this guy's future and all this crap. There's something to be said for that, but it's not. I'm pretty sure it didn't go like Nick just like told Jalen Waddle to like get on the field. Like, you got to think about these. I mean, these guys in the biggest moments. If you're a competitor, and I know it's in some semblance the amateur arena, and these guys that are that talented are heading to bigger and better things and paychecks and all these different type of things. But how many times, and forgive me, because most people are not Alabama, but generally speaking, how many times are you going to play for a national championship game? Those opportunities don't come around that often. And I got to believe, if I'm Jalen Waddle, that, he wanted to be somewhat of a part of it. And it's not like he was out there, on a full workload. He didn't play like, 3 catches. He wasn't on the field, exclusively. So I just wanted to touch on that briefly. But Ohio State, sometimes you're just overmatched. And, when, to me, I thought, the key for them would be the running game. And in the end, it was decent. They decently ran the ball. But, when Trey Sermon goes out after 1 carry, what are you doing?
Second play of the game.
He's been your, as the season has wore on, he was the clear difference in the Big Ten title game with, 300 some rushing yards against Clemson. He had almost 200, just setting the tone, just yards after contact, all these different things. And, Master T came in there and, he was a big part of the, running game earlier in the season. And, he scored a couple touchdowns for him, but it's just not the same. He doesn't have the explosiveness. It's just not the same. So, yeah. So Ohio State, sometimes much like Clemson last season, we know how good of a program Clemson is, and they show up in the national title game and they get blitzed by just an all-time great team. Right. The last 2 years, we've just been, sort of blessed to see 2 all-time great teams. And last point real quick, Steve Sarkisian, what a game he called. Some of these things about, with the everybody in the stadium watching, they know where the ball's coming. They know Devontae Smith is getting the ball, and just the play designs, the exquisite motions that they run. I mean, his 3rd touchdown, it's like 3 motions within 1 play. The cornerback on the other side of the formation, he's running back and forth too. He doesn't know where he's going. So you got all that. And think about this. Just what if for a moment? What if this game was like close and Ohio State's just going like touchdown for touchdown with them, and Devontae Smith doesn't like get hurt? Can you imagine the end game numbers? Dude could have caught 20 passes for like 400 yards.
Oh, it would have shattered records.
12 for 215 in 1 half of football. And then you just, get nicked up a little bit and you just get to sit down for the rest of the game. Like, well, full day's work. Yep, I earned it today.
Right.
What a player, what a career.
Have we heard what happened? Is it something real serious?
If it mattered, if the game was on the line, he would have came back. But basically what it was, he had a dislocated finger.
Oh, okay.
And the coaching staff, they asked Nick, hey, do you want us to go and pull it out? And Nick was like, nah, he good. Just take him to the locker room, wrap it up. He good. He done more than enough tonight. Go ahead and wrap this one up. But one thing I want to say that was interesting, because you brought up Steve Sarkisian. Did you know that he got a 4-star wide receiver commit at halftime? That dude, this commit, watched what he did with Devontae Smith and was like, huh. I'm committed to Texas.
Change my mind, coach. Wow. Hey, we were talking about a pre-show. I said, y'all broke the game down well enough. We got to move on here soon. But Nick Saban is so far beyond the GOAT now. It's not even like he's approaching like all time in any sport GOAT. I mean, you could very well make the argument across any time because like besides just winning and besides the titles and the record, I mean, we realize that he's done this with 10 different coordinators. He has won a national championship with 10 different coordinators. There ain't been no Batman and Robin crap, or anything like that. It's just been him. I mean, even like a team like Clemson, Dabo and Brett Venables have always been together. And there's plenty of other duos you can name. And here's Saban, just whoever's happens to be around, we'll just go find someone off the scrap heap or just whatever. Just come on in and they just plop you in the system. And then you do what you do. And he's like, hey, this is what works for us. You do it. You run it. You figure it out. And it just works every time. It's incredible. No one should be able to be that successful like that. And not only that, but 23 of his assistant coaches have gone on to head coaching jobs somewhere else. I know the whole thing about the Saban tree not being able to beat him is still pretty much intact, but there have been plenty of good coaches that have moved on and done other things and won national titles and SEC titles and etc. And I think what's interesting too, if we go back to like before the season, maybe even the NFL season or whatever the case may be, we asked when the COVID thing first started. We said, well, who is this going to impact more? Is this going to impact the blue bloods more? Is this going to impact the smaller teams more? And what we found out is the most storied, stable, long-rooted franchises did the best. The Lakers win the NBA title. You've got all the classic mainstays in the NFL pretty much with few exceptions are doing their thing right now. And here we are, Alabama, the machine, it just stomps on. It doesn't matter, COVID, think about all the transfer portal stuff that's going on. Think about all the image and likeness stuff that's going on. There are serious top tier NFL or college head coaches, guys like Dan Mullen and stuff that are thinking, man, I might want to get out while the getting's good. I ain't going to work to get these guys, recruit them and keep them. You think Nick Saban's worried about that? He don't care. He don't care at all because he's got that special buy-in. He's got that factor that no one else has. And it just all these issues that corrode other teams and affect them, he just keeps doing his thing. They keep rolling along. Like, Drink said, hey, maybe it won't be as good next year. Maybe it will. Maybe he will just, load right back up and do it again. Who knows? But it's incredible to see. And I know a lot of fans kind of poo-poo on Alabama is like, oh, it's Alabama, Ohio State again, or it's Alabama, Clemson again. You're right, but appreciate greatness while you have it because you're not going to have it one day. And one day we're going to get some nonsense national championship or something else. So as much as it's, it's like, oh yeah, again, whatever. But like, this is serious. This is all time greatness you're seeing. And it should be appreciated while it's here because it'll be gone one day.